When I look at what's happening with AI, I see one major, unsurprising trend. People are using it to do exactly what they were already doing, just faster and cheaper. And what are they trying to accomplish? The same old thing. Produce more to make more money to climb higher on the socioeconomic ladder. And I suppose that's their right. But what if there's a better goal? I don't think most people want to be grinding away in constant competition, working jobs they hate, terrified of falling behind. Most of us do it because we feel we have to, that it's the only way to stay afloat. If we treat AI as just a more efficient tool for business as usual, we'll get the same results, only magnified. We will simply exacerbate the stresses and inequalities that already define our civilization. That's why I hope to find a better paradigm, because AI is coming and it's going to radically transform everything from economics, politics, society, technology, even religion. We might just have a chance to make a world that's a better place for all. Now, I know people like Elon Musk claim AI will create a future of universal abundance. And forgive me for being skeptical, but Musk is a circus ringleader who will say whatever it takes to get what he wants. And he seems to want absolute power, first over this planet and then Mars. It's not that I don't like his stated goal of universal abundance. The thing is that I don't trust the corporate overlords who have made it their life goal to suck wealth from us to them. I don't trust them to suddenly start doing the right thing after they have even more power. So, what could a better world look like? And that's the big question, isn't it? Especially when humans can't even agree on what good and bad mean. Well, here's my idea. It's not perfect, and I don't know how to achieve it, but it's something that I'm confident a vast majority of the planet would agree with as worthy goals. My idea future that AI might help create involves worldwide growth in five key areas: greater food and water security, greater safety from violence, oppression, and war, greater freedom to live life on your own terms and work toward your own sense of meaning, greater access to quality healthcare, and five, easy access to unbiased, accurate information and education. Even with a truly benevolent artificial superintelligence working for us, these five keys will take time and effort. And these are just my own opinions of what I think would be good. I'm curious to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments below. For contrast, a dystopia is a real possibility, and it could have any of the following attributes, maybe even some I haven't thought of, but just a general list is something like AI-generated propaganda and misinformation becoming so pervasive that it's impossible to know what's real anymore. AI and robots take almost all the jobs, but no new way is created for people to meet their basic needs. 3, AI becomes like a little police officer that follows everyone around and punishes us for the many tiny infractions we can't help but make every day. 4, we lose our humanity by allowing AI to create all of our arts, do all of our thinking, and do all of our caregiving for other humans. 5, an AI-powered military conquers the world. 6, the divide between the haves and have-nots explodes, and those with money can afford superior AI models that dominate and subjugate everyone else. And 7, taken to its logical extreme, the haves could realize that since AI and robots are doing all the work, the poor majority of the population then becomes an expendable drag on the rich minority. I'm sure you can guess where this goes. Now that I've got the doom and gloom out of the way, in future episodes, I'm going to be looking at the main forces that I see shaping how all this plays out. Forces rooted mostly in human psychology. In the meantime, I have a fantastic conversation lined up for you in this episode. I'll be talking with my good friend and video game developer, James Bochanski. We'll be talking about how AI is affecting video game development, our personal lives, and pretty much everything else. So let's jump in. In case anybody doesn't know, this is my very good friend, James Bochanski. And James is a video game developer. He's very talented. He worked on a game called Super Marxist Twins that's out on Steam right now. And he's also currently working. Can we talk about the project? Is it too
You're
secret?
allowed to mention it, but it might not go on market for a while. Yeah,
Okay.
so
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's a
but
talk about it.
yeah, the tentative title is Monster Mill. It is an idle tycoon game, and you're a necromancer that manages a legion of skeletons who are helping you train and raise dungeon monsters that clients will rent. So you have like this like monster rental agency. And the core loop, like the actual like maintaining and training of the monster, is very derivative of Tamagotchi. That's the game in a nutshell. I mean, there's more to it, but those are the broad strokes.
So it's supposed to be fun to play. People want to get invested in it, and they obviously want to spend a lot of money on upgrades
Oh,
or
you have to pay for those microtransactions. That's definitely what keeps us in business.
Yeah, yeah, but I think this is, obviously you want to make money with this video game, but you've also got like game ideas that are just your passions.
Of course.
Yeah, go ahead and talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit.
Um, yeah, so I mean I've worked on like action games that involve a lot of animation, stuff like that since I was like in high school. Um, and I've worked on plenty of game jams with other developers. I would say honestly the largest, longest project I've worked on was actually Marxist Twins. And my strengths came out in that design a lot because it's very like physics oriented. And I would say things of like a kinetic nature, things that are like snappy or like have feedback and like visual response for like the player to like be engaged by and to be challenged by. That's definitely like my strongest domain. Um,
Right on, man.
but there's like when I was like way younger and I was really into game design, being an indie game dev wasn't really like a thing yet. I mean, they were out there. I mean, I existed, but like there wasn't a community like there was Indie Game the movie and that came out in 2012, and I feel like after that there really was this like era of what indie games are now, like what you know them to be now. But when I was into it and I was like on my own and like a lot younger, um,
Sorry to interrupt you. You can look at me, not the camera.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay,
That's
no,
good. That's
that's
cool.
fair.
That's cool. No worries.
So when I was a lot younger, I didn't realize that, like one person did this and one person did that. And so I had a very holistic view in terms of like what my interests are for game dev. So while I like do have a knack for like kinetic and like things that are kinetic, things that have like feedback, things that are responsive and animated, I also went in the exact opposite direction and I spent about I want to say like 5 or 6 years studying like Carl Jung and archetypes and the shadow self to develop a narrative system. I call it the cognitive framework. I haven't been able to create a game with it yet, but I would say it's like my true deep passion. And it utilizes the Myers Briggs types and it gamifies it in a way that like every character in the game will be one of the 16 types. And if it's an NPC, their type will like direct how they act. But in the same right, if it's a player character that you're controlling, their type will inform how the game experience unfolds. And that is just so dense. I don't really go into that right now. But
Yeah,
but
yeah,
just to give you an idea of like where my headspaces exist and where my like creative
yeah,
tendencies.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. It's like it's spanning a pretty wide spectrum from like very kinetic, like action oriented ideas for video games, and then all the ways like zooming out to this like 50,000 foot view of like this framework you're building that takes into account personalities. It's almost like two totally very different types of games. And so and we've talked about this at length before, but like AI. and how it might impact the games you want to make, how it might improve the games you want to make, or how it might become make it even more challenging. Can you talk a little bit about uh, what you see as like AI? Is it going to help you? Is it going to hurt you? What are you
Sure.
thinking about?
When I think of AI, what I really think of is a technology that is masterful at repetitive things. But if you have something that's going to have like nuance, I really think like relying on the human element is a better way to go. Um, and
I agree with that in a lot of ways. I think that large video game studios. I heard that I want to say it's EA, the giant publishers, like they're working with hundreds of studios around the world, that they are really seriously looking at AI for the texture creation and model creation, um, converting scans to models, things like that, and it makes sense from their point of view. Like they're saving ass loads of money by having an AI do something that took humans a team of humans months to do. Now they can do with AI in a day. Just like with one art director overseeing the process. And so they're saving a lot of money that way, and pumping out a lot of games.
sounds
Um,
like EA.
yeah, sounds like something EA would do.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty. They're very corporate,
yeah,
so
yeah, and probably a lot of other big developers doing the same thing, and probably indie developers too, like seeing ways to shave time off their development cycles or whatever.
there is actually a online community of game devs that I joined a few months ago, and the guy that like runs it, um, what is it? There, it's called Making Great Games That Sell, and it's an indie dev group that follows that like mantra, and it's like a whole course that's based on that, making great games that sell. But the guy that runs it, he actually like recently talked about AI as it pertains to game design, and I think like pretty much everything he had to share was stuff like I've thought of a little bit of this or a little bit of that from what he said, but he just composed it into a very like complete picture. And to boil it down, the way he puts it is, as a game designer, if you're using AI, it's like you're a conductor guiding an orchestra, and every single one of your performers is elite in talent, but they're also autistic.
Yeah.
So they can't coordinate with each other. So it will execute like whatever task you give it, but there's zero elegance in how, or no, there's zero synergy between each of those things. And your job as a developer is to like find that nuance and make the pieces fit together.
hmm Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, particularly based on what I've seen in my own experimentation with Midjourney, for example. I've got a subscription to that. I've been using ChatGPT and Gemini, and I think also Claude to help me code, making some plugins for ZBrush. And yeah, I find that it's really good if you give it a very specific, narrow task to solve,
Yeah,
and also you go through a few iterations to like figure out like you know fine tune things, help it make this better decisions, or like help it get over certain things it doesn't quite understand. But yeah, that kind of focused attention right now feels like it's very necessary to get anything worthwhile out of AI. Do you see that changing? Like, I think people right now, like a lot of AI developers, are talking about making AI agents. And so if you have a task that you want to accomplish, you can actually give that task to like a head AI that it then delegates to a team of AI agents, and then they all like kind of talk with each other, and then maybe, I don't know, right now maybe an hour later, a few minutes later, I don't know, it'll come back depending on the size of the task probably and be like, okay, we figured out a bunch of variables, um, and integrated a lot of like problem areas, and we've got other AI agents working on those problem areas, and boom, like it does.
it coordinates a full project with nuance.
Yeah,
That's the intention.
that seems like that's what's like coming down the pipeline right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't pretend to have a crystal ball. I tend to just trust like what's right in front of me.
I pretend to have a crystal ball, so
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it pays off, man. I mean,
yeah.
yeah. But I would say when I think of AI, uh, as far as like it being artistically viable, the best example I can think of, there was this trend on YouTube like about a year or two ago where somebody would take like a video game and be like, this is what it would look like if it was in an 80s movie. And the ones that always hit and that were really effective, and I was like, all right, that that that's worth it. That like is effective and their goal was achieved and that like I was elicited like a reaction from the visuals. And it would be anything where it was like Silent Hill as an 80s dark movie or Resident Evil as a 90s thriller. And the reason why I think those were the ones that were like, all right, that's solid is because they were like, they're supposed to be creepy. They're supposed to be like
Mm-hmm.
uncanny and unsettling to look at.
Right. And
And AI
AI,
just nails that because they have the realism part is like, there's no question. Like
yeah.
they're better than we will ever be at creating an image where light hits the objects in a believable way.
Yeah, and not even just believable, but like aesthetically pleasing.
It's aesthetically pleasing, it's photo real, and because the criteria for horror is like make me feel weirded out, like it just does that
Hmm.
flawlessly.
Yeah, I totally agree when it comes to horror. Like, yeah, that uncanny
Nightmarish, dreamy
valley.
stuff.
Yeah, where things like look so real, but there's just something off about them. It makes you feel weirded out in the pit of your stomach, and
Yeah,
it works for horror totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think if AI is going to become viable for like mass creative productivity, I really it's my gut. This is not like informed by information or data, but like my just sense of like being alive in this world. My gut tells me you're never going to be able to completely get rid of the human element. And if AI is going to be like more effective, it's not going to be because of what's happening in the black box. It's going to be because you'll grant the human user more articulate commands to put things into the black box.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right, like the AI can like listen to the human closer and thereby achieve a closer approximation of what the human has in their imagination.
Yeah, yeah. There was something you had shared with me a while back where you listed some criteria, you gave the thing the criteria, and it made like a classic rock song.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I, I mean, if you didn't tell me, maybe I wouldn't know any better. But man, when I heard it, it's like, yeah, texturally, this is like on point,
Yeah.
but it is an abomination.
Yeah, yeah. There was it was
It's,
a few
it,
months ago. I think it was a blues song,
yeah,
kind of a
you
rock blues.
made it up about something that was going on in your day to day life, and it was
Yeah,
very funny.
yeah. I think it was just one of those the AI music generators, and sure it was funny. It was not a great song.
Right.
It kind of sucked. It was like at first glance you're like, oh yeah, that's. I mean, I could hear that on the radio or something, but then you listen a little closer, and it's just kind of like it doesn't quite
Exactly.
feel right.
Exactly. I mean, if you're going to be using AI for art and you have like a movie you're making, for instance, and there's a ton of environments, I think AI would be perfect for generating the backgrounds for those environments,
Mhm.
something like that. But yeah, once you actually have to like take a microscope to something or like a magnifying glass and really examine what it is, I think the cracks show. And even if the AI becomes masterful at like they get rid of Giannising. They don't have like messed up fingers. They master all of that stuff. I still think if you don't have like a sense of inspiration, you don't have like a sense of soul behind what it is. It's gonna show. I don't
Mhm.
think I think people who think you can do away with all that stuff are the same people who like 200 or 300 years ago were like literally looking for the fountain of youth. It's like
Yeah.
I hope you find it, but I wouldn't count on it.
Yes. Yeah. It really opens up the question for me is like, what is the value of creativity, art, music, film, video games? if an AI can do almost all of it by itself. But not right right now it can't do all of it well, but in 5 to 10 years, I think it's for most people it's going to be indistinguishable from something made by a human. Is it going to be good? Maybe. But even if it is good, like, what does that say about the value of human creative endeavor? If a machine now can make movies better than 90% of directors and music better than 90% of musicians and
There's,
paintings better than 90% of painters.
I guess, for the sake of like philosophical expansion, two things come to mind. The first one is mass production in general. So you have like something like what, like McDonald's is fast food. It's an extremely, I mean, I don't have to tell anybody here, it's an extremely lucrative enterprise. It's dominated the world. But when you compare like a Big Mac versus like a meal that like a friend or a loved one has cooked, I think it's no competition.
Yeah.
There's that aspect. And then the second point, um,
Sorry to
kind of
interrupt
slips
really
my
fast.
mind.
You
Not
just
cool.
like gave me a flash of ideas. So like
That's
it's
perfect.
and it's
Because I actually forgot that thing.
even if like McDonald's were somehow able to have like come out with like branch restaurant that spins off and adds this like gourmet McDonald's and it actually
Gourmet
is
clown burgers.
yeah, yeah. Like let's say somehow they like manage to create food that like when it comes out to your table is most people be like, oh, this is like going to a fine dining restaurant. And let's say you're in the kitchen is a total just like take it out of the microwave or take it out of the freezer, put it in the microwave, like but it's convincing enough that like a lot of people are like, sure, and it costs half of what it costs to go out to a nice restaurant. Um, there's I feel like there's something about knowing that something was crafted by a human that came from a human inspiration and a human desire to express that creativity, and then they put it out into the world, and then you're able to interact with it or engage with it or see it, listen to it, enjoy it.
Yeah, it's
There's
authenticity.
something about that that is like beautiful, and it's like why you want to engage with the arts at all in the first place. And if an AI can do this as good or better than a human can do it, I feel like one thing I'm afraid of is that it'll cheapen the arts to the point where they're irrelevant and nobody makes art anymore.
I can't imagine that happening because you say you have your hypothetical AI your like McFancy, we'll call it. It's like a new chain that Ronald has endorsed, and they're like acne. They're just spreading all over everything. And you show up day one, and you're there, and you're like, "This is trash," and you stick your nose up to it, and everyone's like, "Ryan doesn't know what he's talking about. This looks great." I still think in like a couple months to a year, it's going to give, and people are going to realize over time this is not actually gourmet food. I think like
Right.
there's a you can pull things off. You can succeed at something even if you're full of shit. Because if you're good at that hustle, you're good at like setting things up in a way that like when people initially see them, their expectations are formed in a way that you want them to be. That the world is made out of stuff like that. There's so much stuff in our world, but people see through it, and I think it would catch up.
Mm. I agree that people will see through it, but if you have the option of like spending twice as much to get the real gourmet meal, like a lot of people are going to be like, sure, it would be nice to have the real deal, but I can't afford it. Just like with McDonald's, like everybody knows it's garbage, but if you get that like value meal, it's $3. You get
The
the
price
burger
is
and the fries and the drink, but as opposed to spending two, three, four times as much to get actually a real meal.
Yeah, the price is right, and there's no arguing with that. Yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into it. I mean, like as much as I think I'm diametrically opposed to you. I'm not
I
of an
love it.
extreme opinion about it, but I am more pessimistic than optimistic about it. But I think my pessimism has less to do with AI and more to do with just like how power in the world takes shape, by default. And it's usually just, people who want power are the ones who get it. And the
Yeah.
people who actually are like conscientious or diligent or of morals and values, they would be in a position where they could acquiesce power, but they would avoid it because it's not moral. And then like
You mean acquire power?
thank you,
Yeah.
yeah, isn't it?
Acquiesce means give up power.
They would acquiesce it
Oh,
because
they would give up power. Oh, how
yeah,
so?
I did misspeak here. I was using the word wrong.
Yeah.
Um, they wouldn't acquire it because yeah, it's just not in the cards or it's just not the right thing. So I mean, largely my opinion of AI has more to do with that than anything else. Um,
Hmm. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, I also am pessimistic about AI in a lot of ways too. And a lot of my pessimism comes from exactly what you're talking about because everything that we humans create is like a manifestation of our core values. And what are the core values of the people who are making AI right now is to make ass loads of money, and
it sure is.
I mean, sure, I think there's some people who also are like, well, we want the best for humanity, but
They
they're
take
bankrolled by
yeah.
Microsoft,
They like say hypothetically there's like 50 people that are working on it. There's always going to be like one or two guys in the group that are like that. And they take that guy and they put him in the front.
mm,
But the other like 48, 49, they just, you know, they want a lot of money.
yeah. Yeah, totally. And I think if
Lots
the
of money.
history of the tech industry has shown us anything, it's that these companies initially put on this fresh face of like, we want to bring people together. We want to just help people search the internet. Don't be evil, you know. Social media, it's just about bringing people together. Um, but then when the chips are down, like you see, Google got rid of the "Don't be evil" slogan, or Meta and Facebook, they're just like, we clearly don't care about people. We just care about the ad revenue.
Of course.
And that's my big fear with AI is that everyone's going to be like, oh wow, look at this great thing. It helps me write this email and it helps me like organize my spreadsheets and it makes the cool pictures for me. And then once everybody's invested, just like we got invested with Google or Facebook, they're going to close the doors and it's going to be a dystopian nightmare. Just like going on YouTube now with all the ads and the algorithm, it's a nightmare going on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, I use YouTube a lot for tutorials, like when I'm like studying like
Mhm.
Blender or Godot or
Yeah.
whatever.
If you're searching for something specific and you want to find like something specific, it's great. But if you're just like relying on your algorithm,
I wasn't going to say that. What I was going to say was because I use it so much, I actually got YouTube Premium,
uh-huh,
which actually totally circumvents all that stuff.
right?
It's about $120 a year. And for as much as I use it, it's worth it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That that is true. Like getting rid
yeah,
of the ads, because I hate advertising,
of
um,
course.
and I refuse. Like if this YouTube channel, if this like YouTube podcast I'm doing blows up, let's say, hypothetically speaking, and it's like gets millions of viewers and stuff, I refuse to do advertising on it. Like there's the YouTube advertising, and then there's the in video advertising. Like I'm not going to do sponsorships or anything like that.
Yeah, right.
Because I hate that shit. Um, so what were we talking about?
Well, the only thing I would say is like, that's just the nature of the beast.
Hmm.
Like, I think ideals are important to have. You should never fully like disengage from them or you'll lose who you are as a person. But if you were to want, to have a YouTube presence and for it to be viable, I think it's like required. You can't not do that part.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I
And
really, and yeah, like the thumbnails and the clickbaity titles and the like.
that stuff you might not, you could probably get away with not having to do that. Or you could do it in a way that resonates with your values or your intentions. Like some people will have clickbaity stuff, but it winds up being of substance anyway. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's competing for attention and there are an infinite number of things you're competing with. And if you aren't competitive at all, you may as well just consider it a hobby that is going to exist in isolation. Um, but it just comes down to your preferences, really.
Mm-hmm. Uh, so I lost my train of thought, but we can just edit out. We're just
Okay.
like how many like moments of like, "Durr."
Yeah, no, that's totally fair, man. I mean, it's the first
Yeah,
time we've ever done this.
yeah,
So I feel like we pretty much like just made a beeline for the bigger picture, and which is fine because I mean it's a part of reality. But in a lot of ways, those are things that we have zero control over. It's like about as effective as like praying to the sun. You
mm.
know, like I it's it can put me in a good mood, but it's not going to cause the planets to like align in some certain way.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that leads me to something I really love thinking about when it comes to AI and sort of philosophically what it's going to mean for humanity. Which is I agree. Like it's not in either of our cards to change how capitalism works
It's going to just it's a force of nature.
or change how governments work. You
Yeah.
know, um, but I do think that AI brings up something really crucial, which is like because it's going to be so transformative, or at least has the potential to be like extremely transformative for good or bad. I think it's going to create a situation that makes it all that much more important that individual people become more in tune with their own values.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like for the past, as long as I've been alive, probably since the 50s in America, there's kind of been this sort of cultural sense of being on rails culturally, where it's just like, okay, you go to school, you get a job, you pay your student loans, you pay your taxes, you buy a house, you get married, you have kids, and you just follow the rules, and you're gonna be fine. You're on this roller coaster. Sure, sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, but you're in the seat, you're buckled in.
Thanks, Edward Bernays,
Yeah, thank you, Edward Bernays.
the Department of Public Relations, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think that there AI has a big chance of upsetting that paradigm completely. And so I think that the the need for people to kind of really step outside, like unbuckle themselves from this roller coaster and like really see in a broader perspective like who they are, what they want in life, what their values are, um, and sort of developing um, themselves, self development, self growth. I think is going to be really crucial because for many different reasons. For either AI goes in a really good direction and like everybody has universal basic income, or it goes in a really bad direction. It's dystopic. Um, and there's killer robots out looking for people. Like either of those both directions, and in the middle too. Like some good, some bad, but like mostly not a big change either way. No matter which way it goes, I think it's going to be so crucial for individual people to work on their self development. Um, Hopefully, if it goes well, people have a UBI. They'll have free time to devote to therapy, meditation, yoga, whatever it is that helps people with that. But if it goes really bad, I think people will have to deal with living in a dystopia. And I think the only way to get through that is personal development. Um, so it's kind of scary. I think that there's a wide range of outcomes this might come to with AI. But I think with all of them, it's like I think it's going to be more important than ever to look for that um, inner compass.
Yeah, so I mean, I actually think ultimately that's true with or without AI. People
Mm-hmm.
can get swept away by a cult
Right.
or like some kind of fad or trend in media.
Yeah.
Um, but with AI, the rate at which those things will compound does intensify. So you're not wrong, actually.
Right.
What you're
Yeah.
basically saying is this thing that already is true is going to be even truer. If is that a
Yeah.
word? Yeah.
Even truer. Yes, I agree. And actually, well, yeah, and I think that the past 60 years of America have been kind of an anomaly where there has been this huge growth, economic growth, technological growth, and it's been relatively easy for people to kind of like have blinders on and just be like, well, I'm just going to follow the rules. I'm just going to do what my society says I should do, and everything's going to turn out okay. I think that's actually pretty anomalous for most of human history.
And it's not like it's pretty maladaptive to reality.
It is, because things change in a
Yeah.
big way. People are not prepared for it.
When things it's so true, man. I think that it does describe America in a lot of ways. And it's why it's having such an identity crisis. I mean, just think of the name. It's the United States of America. This is America, but I'll tell you what, brother, we're not united,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
at all.
yeah.
And I think people like our age and younger are completely aware of that. And I think a lot of people who are even younger than you and me are far less fortunate because by the time they came along, there wasn't even anything to reference anymore. So it's like, what are these old people even talking about? And the potency of media, I have a pretty strong feeling that like before the Beatles came along and it caused like this frenzy in like culture over how like sexually appealing they were because that has more to do with it than anything else. This is my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think it was like, look at these young men singing their hearts out, and it blew people's minds apart because like 100 or 200 years earlier, all of the people you would have ever known were from your one community. And with mass media, it creates this space that everyone can exist inside of. And you kind of forfeit your individuality to like a collective, just like town square, really. Like parasocial. It's like a parasocial like paradigm. And if you take AI and you throw it into this mix, now you have something that's going to like systematically manipulate the parasocial paradigm. And I think that's what you're pretty much were getting at like a couple moments ago with your point about why it's important to cultivate a sense of self. And I think when mass media blew up the way that it did, you've got like the Beatles or Elvis, uh, Star Wars, Super Mario Brothers. You have things that like are these monoliths of culture. Well, 300 or 400 years ago, none of that existed. So when people had like a sensibility of like what's aesthetically pleasing or what's meaningful, you could probably go anywhere on earth and you'd find a different thing every time. But now we all love the same things, but that hasn't even been true for 100 years. And with the existence of the internet, I feel like a lot of like these things that have happened, they're kind of like an Ouroboros where they're just eating themselves over and over again. And AI is just like the latest form of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think that's really fascinating. One of the things I remember, so like before the internet, it was like if you wanted to get your thing, if you wanted to get your book published or your script turned into a movie or
Right.
whatever, there were a lot of hoops you had to jump through. You had to like kiss the right asses, and you had to
Yeah.
like know the right people. You had to go to the right school. You had to just jump through all these hoops. And then there was a period, the golden age of the internet, from maybe like 1995, if you were like really catching the wave early, but like 2000 up until like 2015 roughly was kind of this golden age where anybody could just go on YouTube, make a YouTube channel or just whatever, and just not put any effort at all into like jumping through hoops. And people would be like, "Oh wow, you've got a video where you feed your your
You
hamster."
YouTube famous.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can just like do whatever, and maybe it catches on, maybe it doesn't, but like you could just do it, and not think about the marketing angle or think about like how am I going to get this famous. But now that age is over. Like you have to do that again. You have to be like, okay, how am I like making my YouTube thumbnail? How am I titling it so it'll be clickbaity? And now we're okay. So in the age of AI, okay, everybody wants their thing to sell, right? And so AI, but now everybody has a thing to sell. So how is AI going to help lift one person's YouTube channel above somebody else's who's also using AI? It just kind of like feels like is it still going to be just a game for the rich people who can afford the $200 a month subscription to was it ChatGPT Plus or whatever?
Yeah, man. Same as it always was. It's just the way the world's always been and it always will be. I think the one thing that I appreciate about the modern era is AI has like YouTube, for instance, AI has made it so that when you go on YouTube, it's an endless ocean of noise. And so therefore it makes a lot of what's on YouTube kind of meaningless. And so then you have to say like, well, what else is there? You just go out into the real world and meet people
I love that.
and
Yeah.
have real connections. Um, I don't actually love that like the quality of these things is degraded, but the fact that it has, it just makes that fact more true and more clear.
I love that actually, and I think one of the most amazing ironies of AI is that it has the potential, if things go well, to actually just cause people to be like, "Fuck this YouTube," and just go out into the real world and talk to real people
Yeah.
and do something like with their hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, what would you do with all your free time if AI frees you up and you don't have to work?
I'd make the video games I want to make.
You make the video games you want to make.
Fuck yeah.
Would you? Would you
I'd
So if
make
you let's
them.
say you have all the time, let's say even okay, a hypothetical future where everybody can upload their consciousness to a brain and live forever, or
Mm-hmm.
upload to a computer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You live forever. You get to make the game of your dreams. Would you incorporate AI to help you make it faster, or would you like revel in the craft of doing it all yourself?
I mean, if I had all of this time to work with, I would probably figure out what things made sense to allocate to the AI. And I would get a feel for what things I really want to be putting my fingerprints on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's where the need for someone with creative sensibilities comes in,
Yeah.
where they can make the decision of like what really needs to be done, what's the focal point, of this creative thing,
Yeah.
and what's just supporting, what's in
Yeah.
a supporting role. I wonder if, in a future where anybody can just create anything at any moment, where just by they speak to, the chat GPT is you just talk to it, right? And it's even got a face and it has facial expressions. And you just like, I want to see a movie today that has has Elvis, the 60s Elvis in it. And but he plays a James Bond type character and blah 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 blah. And it makes the movie and you just watch it right there on the spot. Are people's sort of creative muscles going to atrophy by doing that, or are they going to get stronger? Like having this creative powerhouse at everybody's fingertips. I wonder, are people going to get creatively lazy, or are they going to be creatively stronger?
I mean, I think like their broader sense of vision will get stronger because you get to just keep building and building on top of something that covers leaps and bounds for you. But your capacity for like grit and perseverance will probably like atrophy. Your
Mm-hmm.
capacity to like commit and do challenging stuff that matters. Like you have to like suffer and struggle, or else
Yeah.
like what are you really like doing?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, even just it
Oh man, yo, I'm sorry, but
yeah.
I want to like cut in because I feel like a couple of points in our conversation are just kind of connecting. And
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's hear it.
so we were just talking about how like yeah, or like a couple generations ago, you had like a mass explosion of mass media, and it puts all these people on this track, right? I think one of the most common things in America, and I'm not trying to be cynical, this is going to be kind of mean, but I'm just being honest, are just goobers. People that want to be comfortable and safe and take no risks. And it's,
It's the people on the movie Wall-E, that ship.
yeah, that's already real.
Yeah.
That is real before Wall-E came out. And it's just getting realer. And if people aren't conscientious of how AI impacts their day-to-day lives, it's going to become even realer. And what I think the people who like make a ton of money off of this are really failing to account for is that when you create a population of people that are that like mindless, that like soulless, that's the lowest common denominator. And in most cases, the lowest common denominators tend to overtake everything that was like actually good or I don't want to use the word pure. That's like a meaningful. Everything that was like meaningful or like of value and quality. All of that just gets wiped out by the Akira blob of just like profit margin, like
Yeah.
the fall off, the runoff of profit margins.
Yeah. Can you give me an example of anything that you've seen in your lifetime that is case in point of that phenomenon?
I'm guessing they'll never see this. So my family, man,
Mm.
like growing up in my family, they want to be safe and comfortable, and it makes them kind of dumb, and it's really sad. I love them. My parents raised me. You know, they're great people,
Yeah.
but like if you were trying to live a life of personal growth and development, they their lifestyles are a product of the reality they were born into. I don't even blame them. Like I don't hate them. I love them. But it's also like really sad. Like I look at it and it kind of makes me think of like you see like a turtle in a river and one of those like six pack plastic like can wrappers gets like tangled around the turtle and then it like strangles to death because the turtle is not evolved to like deal with some shit like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't fucking know what a six pack of beer cans is. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't fucking understand like how plastic works. And in the same way, my parents were just born into a reality where like you watch the television and the television brainwashes you.
Yep.
And that brainwashing makes you think that a sedentary lifestyle is just like, that's a great way to be. And it really isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they're not like mindless zombies. Like they both worked full careers and they achieved things with their lives. But the time that they have to do with what they want, a majority of it, they spend it watching television and they're all obese. And
Yeah.
it's just so sad. And I had to be like antagonistic in my family to not turn out that way. Like, I mean, like I'm a little pudgy in the sides as a result of it, but like this was me like fighting as hard as possible to be like healthy and like mindful of my life.
Right.
And it is the scope of it. It is like it's so far reaching that it goes beyond like an individual's ability to like put it in perspective, I think. What am I trying to say? Like the turtle, the way that the turtle just doesn't know what a plastic six pack wrapper is, and so it wipes it out. That is what this is like. And this is like before AI,
Mm-hmm.
but AI just really amplifies it all.
Yeah. So I want to like dig into this deeper. So what is this thing that exists in human nature that is sort of forced to come out in times of hardship, that we can just sort of like sort of push down and forget about when times are easy? What is that thing? You know, is that the human drive to make things better? Is it
To survive? It's just like the instinct to survive.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me when I was a kid, I think I was like 16 years old, 17. And I think my dad, he was like, I'm going to show Ryan how to be a man or something. So he got the movie True Grit starring John Wayne, Dennis Mustard. And he showed it to me. And like the whole time I'm thinking like, yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, the Wild West was the Wild West, but today is different. We don't need to like exhibit what the movie called True Grit, right?
Sure. The
That
masculinity.
masculine, that like go get 'em fortitude thing. And I just kind of rolled my eyes at the movie. But I think there is something to it that like even though we do live in a time, at least right now, that's like we have people have opportunities. Sure, like a lot of people are living on the street, but like there are a lot of opportunities. A lot of people are raising their level of their standard of living around the world. Probably there's greater percentage of people in middle class lifestyles than ever before in history, maybe. Um,
That's
so, but
true.
there's probably a great value in tapping into your internal true grit or your just your that sense of like sure things are great but like let's make them better, let's get this I don't know something and bring it out instead of just like oh I'm just gonna watch TV today and
I mean, when it comes down to it, you don't have to worry about bears anymore.
yeah we don't have to
That's
worry
what
about
it is.
bears and for all America since the Civil Wars and we haven't really had a war on our
On our
turf
turf, yeah.
for the most part, other than like Pearl Harbor. But um, yeah, we were living in a time of relative peace. So I guess what I'm saying is like along the lines with creativity, what can we do with this human thing that we all have? It's just dormant, I think, in a lot of us because we've had things so easy. And I think there's negative examples of this. It's the toxic masculinity thing. But I think there's ways to incorporate this energy. I mean, you could be a woman and embody it too. I
Right.
think it's all human.
Masculinity and femininity are not like gender specific. I agree with that.
Yeah, and maybe we don't even want to put gender labels on it, but there's this human thing that I think all humans are capable of, like this fire of like, I want to change the world. I want to make things better. And I think it's been dormant in a lot of people for as long as I've been alive, and maybe my parents' entire lives, because we haven't had to use it,
Yeah.
right? We haven't had to unbuckle ourselves from the roller coaster. Um,
Yeah, some people don't realize it's there.
yeah. And what would happen if we embraced and utilized that energy without a crisis situation to force us to use it?
Yeah, I
What
mean,
would we do?
yeah, we do what humans have done all throughout history, sink or swim.
Yeah, yeah, but we don't have to sink. So like, let's swim with that energy. Let's like wake up that energy in ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's like creativity too. It's like that creative energy to do something, to make something, which I think it it might turn out really interesting. Let's say in a few years everybody just gets bored of what AI can do. Right? It makes movies and sure
to be
they're
honest, I'm already there, man.
yeah. Let's say like let's say this becomes a mass thing over global scale. People are like, we don't want to see another AI movie. Sure, the explosions look great, and the acting is great, and the stories are fine, but it doesn't have any value anymore because it wasn't made by fucking people. So then, what do people do? We like just start making things again. We get our hands dirty. Like I got last year, I got a ceramic studio membership
Yeah.
and I just fucking loved it. Just making things with my own hands. And there was it was making things that can't be replaced, at least not right now by AI. Right? We're sure some in the future robots will be making ceramics too.
I think there's going to be hard limits on certain things for AI. This is, another, when you had approached me about having this conversation, I think the biggest point that came to my mind are like, what are actually the bounds? So what is AI? AI is software. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. Yeah.
AI is a
Yeah.
software.
Yeah.
Well, I think about it, video games. Video games are also software. Unlike other forms of media, video games have an extraordinarily short lifespan. And that is because of the bounds of software. In order to have software, it needs to be on hardware. You can't just create software and it like ethereally permeates the room. That's
Yeah.
not a thing.
Yeah.
That's not real. And a lot of science fiction kind of like makes those leaps in logic. I shouldn't say that because I can't think of a specific example. But all I am getting at is
Like the Matrix,
the
where our reality
yeah.
actually is
Yeah, okay,
software.
okay, there we go. Thank you. All right,
Yeah.
great. But even still, in the Matrix, all of that software existed on hardware. You had those giant robots that acted out the will of the Matrix. You
Well,
had
the
those
hardware was humans, wasn't it? Our human brains were
humans.
making the.
Humans were the battery. The
That's
heat that
right.
the human
That's right.
body generates was used to power
Yeah.
the machines, which that's its own thing. But like metaphors and philosophy aside, the bounds of software are hardware. So you make a great video game and it's successful and it gets game of the year hypothetically. But then like 5 or 10 years later, a new generation of consoles exists. Unless you have like a powerful effort to report it, that game is actually lost to time. And I think that draws a really important line to keep in mind when thinking about AI and how it impacts the world. And so I'm not saying AI doesn't have any impact, but I think people over exaggerate the extent of it because you need something for it to exist inside of, and that needs to be manufactured, and that costs money.
Mm.
And it's like you can't just have it. And I guess the point that I'm getting at is like no matter what AI does wind up doing, whatever its legacy is, its impact on society, you're still going to have so much space that exists in the world where it doesn't even matter. It doesn't like exist.
So you go for a walk in the park, and it's not like there's AI
Right.
floating in the air around
Right.
you.
I guess the part where my like opinion does fall short is logistics. So at the moment for money, I work for Amazon and every day I go to this like warehouse and I'm assigned a route. And the people who live in the area of the route, they're all accounted for. I ordered this, I ordered that. And Amazon figures out how much can fit in my car and how long my route like clock is, like how much they're going to pay me. So like the time limit of it. And they are able to like just through AI just generate a route and they scale how many drops I have based on how much I have to drive. And that's like really impressive. And I think that represents like the extent, like things of that nature, using it to like calculate probabilities to guide a mass corporation. That represents like the broadest scope of how AI can impact reality. But I still have to physically carry the thing to a location with my bare hands. And I think there's just something about reality that you can't discount in regards to like that distinction of the logistics are a thing. That's I think the realest that AI gets is managing logistics, but you still need a human being to carry that out. And I mean, maybe in like 5 years you'll have self-driving cars, but then who takes the package from the car and puts it properly on the doorstep and hides it somewhere so that someone doesn't steal it? That's a
Yeah.
lot of shit to
Yeah.
figure out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Robotics are kind of the weak link in a lot of this right now.
the hardware.
The hardware. Yeah.
Dude, even if you built something that could do all of that shit, how expensive are the parts going to be? Aren't you going to need somebody to maintain all that stuff all the time? Is it really cost effective to do that instead of getting someone who's got like blood and sweat and go do it themselves?
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is illustrative of, I think, one thing that maybe is optimistic about AI is that some people fear that it's going to be too much change too quickly, and the robotics problem is pretty tricky. Of like
Yeah.
not only how do you get a robot that can do everything a human can do or more, but how do you make it cost effective, accurate, all these things, and that might be a slower problem that takes a while to catch up to what AI is capable of, which would also mean that the labor market is not affected as abruptly.
Yeah, which I mean is kind of ironic and a bit of a shame in my opinion because I wouldn't mind it if like AI took over all that shit.
Yeah, yeah, I know, right? That's like the
But
big thing.
the
Is like
fact that they are going so hard at trying to replace artists
yeah,
is it's not really about AI. It's just about like selfish, greedy, narcissistic rich people who should like go fuck themselves. I had to like look at the camera when I said that.
just in case Jeff Bezos is watching.
Yeah, Mr. Bezos, you're paying my bills, or I'm using your company to pay my bills right now, but it's not that cool, bro. No one to
Yeah,
trust.
that was the huge surprise to me about 3 years ago when like AI like Midjourney started to like actually become create something that was like impressive. Absolutely blew my mind because I thought that was going to be the last thing
I remember.
that AI takes over.
Yeah.
And because I thought like, oh sure, like the robots are gonna dig ditches and pick fruit and do all this stuff, all the grunt work, the manual labor, warehouse work. I thought music and art was gonna be the last thing, maybe 100 years from now, and it
Right.
was the first thing that AI mastered.
Yeah.
Well, playing chess probably was the first thing that AI mastered, but yeah.
I would say it masterfully generates crisp, high definition imagery, but it doesn't have a soul.
Mm. Is it
And
is it possible for the human to put the soul in the AI art by massaging the prompts, by selectively editing, like, okay, this is pretty cool, but like let's turn this one section of the image into like something else. And
I can't say for sure, but just like the layman's amount of philosophy I've explored in my life, I think that's like saying a goldfish in a body of water can like know every crevice in that body of water. Like it exists in the water and
mm,
the water is its reality. But there's no way it actually knows every like inch of that. And we are
right.
humans and maybe we make quantum computers that can accomplish those feats. But I feel like there's just some like property of nature that I can't put a finger on that says no. Like it's not possible.
Hmm,
And the people who keep trying, it's like go and find
right,
the fountain of youth.
right,
Like if we could have done it, they would have done it by now.
right. So what I wonder though is like, so as it is right now, like for my whole lifetime up until AI, if you wanted to create um an illustration or like, a beautiful image like you would with a mid journey, and this is like maybe let's say Norman Rockwell, right, for illustrating the cover of the Saturday Evening Post. The Saturday Evening Post had an editor, and then under that there's like a creative director probably, and a team of graphic designers, and all these people would be working with Norman Rockwell to be like, okay, we need a cover for the Saturday Evening Post, and we want it to celebrate Thanksgiving, and so that there's some parameters, right, for Norman Rockwell. And those parameters, are they not the same as a prompt? Right, the creative director is saying, okay, it needs to be Thanksgiving themed, and it's a happy family, and maybe there's the neighbors are over, and the neighbors are black, but the family's white, and there's big turkey, and
Yeah,
so
so
prompting is the job of a creative director, right?
yeah, but when Norman was creating his art, he was inspired by having lived a human life. And I am unconvinced that you can fabricate that can be synthesized. Like Star Trek, I think is a wonderful show, but it's basically space UN. It's not like actual sciency, like believable science. So like you have the character of like Data, and he's a robot. He's a human being. He's used as an analog to talk about things like racism or uh like just ethics or I don't know, just other stuff that's philosophically worthy.
Right. He
He
points
is,
he points out our humanity in the ways he falls short of humanity, for example.
yeah, yeah. But I think if that actually existed, it would be way less canny. It would be more uncanny. Yeah.
If AI
If there
if
was something
data
like
actually existed.
if there was a Lieutenant Commander Data, you wouldn't be like, oh man, I love that guy. I do not think
Yeah.
so. I
Yeah,
think
he'd
you
be
would be
way
like
less personal.
you'd be like, it creeps me out because it looks real, but it's not real. I mean, shit,
Yeah.
think about this. There's things that are real and organic, and they're fucking creepy. Like, think about a possum or a goat. Look at those things in the eyes, and there's just like something that's just like unsettling about it. I mean, if you grew up with them or you love them, I'm sorry. Like they're not. I'm not like saying they're horrible, but there is something.
Well, yeah, if you try to think that they're human, yeah, you're gonna be like, this
It's
is weird.
it's
Or have you seen
unsettling.
a goose? A goose in the eye? Gooses have like unusually human looking eyes.
Yeah, yeah, and it's unsettling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
and
if you try to project humanity onto them, you're gonna have a bad time.
you're not gonna have a good time. Yeah.
But nobody thinks a squirrel is a human. So if a squirrel looking like a squirrel doesn't look uncanny to us,
Yeah.
because a squirrel is just doing exactly what it's supposed to do, to be a squirrel. So okay, let's go back to like the difference between a creative director, Norman Rockwell's time, and a prompter ch- prompting an AI today. Uh, Given enough feedback, like iterations with, okay, let's take that. Actually, let's put that creative director from Norman Rockwell's day in a time machine, bring him to the present, and tell him to
Guide.
art direct a Norman Rockwell magazine cover. Is is that talented human going to be able to coax the AI into creating something that actually has soul, and the same soul that a human made painting would have?
I think if I don't think the way that it works now, no, I
Hmm.
don't think so.
Hmm.
If it was going to work, so at this point, AI is like a black box. You say things, it goes into the black box, and a result comes out the other end. And what I'm saying is, if you were going to get viable results that feel like they actually have soul and that wouldn't bust at the seams after a few weeks of existing, like people will start picking it apart and like seeing like why it's weird and creepy and unsettling. It's it's only going to work if you take more pieces out of the black box and turn them into controls and let people be more articulate with how they guide the black box.
Mm-hmm.
A computer is only going to do exactly what you tell it to do. That's just like one of those like laws of reality. A computer is not going. They don't improvise. They don't seek novelty. They're not built for that. And I think what makes it like human feedback so valuable and meaningful is that capacity for novelty, not in and of itself, but because that capacity is present with the now. A computer doesn't like die one day. I mean, it does, but it isn't built with like that sense of mortality. It doesn't have like kids to raise. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have like a sense of, oh, I might starve to death. It doesn't give a shit about it. It's just a computer.
Hmm.
It's this thing we built, but it is not us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point. I think it points to the ephemerality of things generated with AI. So I remember, when I first started learning how to do 3D, like 3D modeling, 3D rendering, and all that stuff, back in the late '90s, um, there would be like some really talented artist using very early version of Maya or Lightwave or 3ds Max would make an image, and it was pretty cool. I mean, it's obviously 3D,
Yeah.
but it was pretty cool, and it would captivate the attention of the community for months, if not years, maybe even. People just constantly be like talking about it and referencing it and commenting on it in the message boards. And now millions of images are created in a day that are maybe aesthetically more pleasing and the details are more accurate, and nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah,
Like they're just scroll, 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 next, 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 next.
we're drowning in an ocean of shit.
Well, but a lot of it, if you took 90% of stuff that's coming out on Midjourney right now, you put it in a time machine and showed it to people in the 80s, it would blow their fucking minds. They'd be like, what wizard is
Okay,
coming up with this?
but time machines don't exist, and all of that stuff exists in this present reality where everybody is aware of everything that, like, how things are, and by principle, it lowers the value of
Oh,
those things.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So time machines don't exist. So I'm sorry, just like that hypothetical is lost on me
Yeah.
because, like, taking the thing out of its context undoes the ability to examine it accurately.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree. So, but I mean, for me, it puts a spotlight on the perceived value of something in its context. Knowing that 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 3D render I saw in 1998
It
that
was
took
novel.
somebody, almost a year of work to get a decent image,
Yeah.
out of Maya version 1,
Things
that meant something.
Yeah, exactly. Things themselves for their own sake are not entirely their value. Their value is largely the context with which they exist in.
So, and I think this is really important because no matter what the context is, as long as there are humans around to engage with that context, us humans are, we're going to bring our, I almost said humans like as if I wasn't one. I think some people could
That's cool. I know
agree
you
with
are.
that. Yeah. We're going to bring with that things that are integral to the human experience, right? Our
Yeah.
desire for connection with other human beings, our creative spirit, that fire that we have for like changing the world or not if we suppress it. So that's one of the things that makes me optimistic about AI is that, like, regardless of what happens, humans are going to bring their core self to the context, and will find a way to make it valuable. Like, regardless of like sure that the millions of images made on Midjourney every day no longer seem valuable to me, but I think somebody raised in that context is going to find a way to make it valuable. They'll project their own innate sense of meaning onto whatever they encounter.
I think it has less to do with, like, projection and more to do with, by the time that person was born, having an endless ocean of AI crap was the norm. So they're just their frame that they, like, perceive it through is going to be built out of that reality. So yeah, I mean, what you're saying is true, but, like, why it's valuable, that's going to be totally different versus, like, why it would have been valuable when we were, like,
Yeah.
like think again, like, video games, like, think about, like, graphics in video games up until about, like, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. It was nothing but a race to the top from, like, the late 80s all the way up until, like, 2000 and, like, 15 or 16. And then things reached a point where it's just like, who cares anymore? Like, the graphics.
Right. Like the realism in video games. Yeah.
Like, you had, like, The Last of Us, Metal Gear Solid.
Was that one with the dinosaurs, the mechanical dinosaurs?
Yeah. Jeez. I know what you're talking about. It's with the redheaded
Horizon Zero.
Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah. Yeah, all those games. They're so real looking that it's like, we did it. Like, it doesn't, like, if it's to look more real than this, kinda, who cares anymore? And yeah, AI kind of has that effect on works of art in a sense. It just is what it is. My instinct was to say that that's kind of sad, but it just means that, like, reality is just going to have different meaning to the people that come after us, and
Yeah.
that's fine. I mean, same as it ever was, really.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody had never seen a blade of grass before in their life, you see a blade of grass and you think, "Oh my God, this is so beautiful.
Hmm.
Look at these little tiny veins or like this the cell structure and look how it just grows out of the ground. Oh my God, it's so amazing." If you've never seen even plants before, right?
Right.
Um, but for us, it's like, so what? Blade of
Yeah.
grass. I think AI generated content is going to be as mundane and boring as a blade of grass is to me and you.
Yeah, yeah. I think one last point I would want to just talk about with AI is the mass scale with which it operates on. And I think of the environment. And before the Industrial Revolution, we lived in this rich green planet. And at this point, there are still plenty of rich green areas. There's also a lot less of them, and far fewer animal species, and tons of plastic that's like in all of our like bloodstreams. And I hate to say it, but I feel like AI is doing the digital equivalent of that on the internet. I mean, like, I'm not the first person to say this. This is just from things I've seen and read. But there's that idea of like the internet is largely AI at this point. There's so much of it. It's like there aren't even people on it anymore. It's like the ghost internet or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just a product of people trying to acquiesce power. So like in this modern world, we have capitalism. But eons ago, you had people that would like pillage like communities. They would show up in their helmets and their weapons and kill all the men and capture all the women and children. And that was way worse. So I mean, like capitalism is not great, but that's all that looks like to me. It's just different forms of human evil. But AI itself, that's what's being done with AI. But AI itself is just a possibility, and positive things can be done with it. I don't want to like act like that's not the
Mm-hmm.
case. Um,
Yeah, there's so many different things that could be done with it. I totally agree with you. And those things depend on the character and the values of the people doing stuff with AI.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah. So we'll see. One thing I've been thinking about, I haven't mentioned to anybody, but I could imagine one third of the scenarios in the future are very utopian, kind of Star Trek futures. One third of them are dystopian Terminator 2 futures. Um, and about one third are kind of like, sure, some things will be better, some things will be worse. People's lives are going to have to change. We're going to have to adapt. But for the most part, there's still going to be inequality. Some people are going to be rich, some people are going to be poor, blah, blah, blah. And I think that is the future to prepare for, where the more things change, the more they say the same future. Because I think if it's going to be utopian future, your preparations aren't really going to matter. Everybody's going to be wealthy, or at least wealthy enough to have free time and do what they want with their lives. The third, that's dystopia. I think there's no sense in preparing for it because it's going to be so awful that there's no preparations that are significant.
yeah,
Um, so I think the preparation that people should make for the future is the one with just more. It's the future we have now, but just more. It's more of this. It's
yeah. Well, I mean,
more struggle, more people trying to affect change, more people trying to block change, more. Yeah,
hey, all you can do, man, is just be present.
that's exactly what I'm saying. That's
Yeah,
what goes back to me. It's just like work on yourself. You know.
whatever you have to work with, whatever level you're at, just make the best with that, and you know, don't be too upset about what you don't have yet or what you think you deserve.
Mm. Yeah, I like that a lot, and
I've had the
make sure you spending quality time with people you care about.
That's right, bro.
Sorry, you're gonna say something?
Yeah, no, that actually kind of felt like a nice moment to just
That was a great moment.
but
Yeah.
be present with. But yeah, I've been telling myself that a lot, honestly, just with the current job I have. Because it's not the worst job I've ever had, but it's a little grueling at times. Sometimes the routes they get you driving an hour in one direction, you can You're done the deliveries, and you got to drive an hour back,
Mm.
or you like go up the mountains, or dogs will try to bite you, or
Yeah, that's
you get,
something that, yeah, totally. It's,
it's just
yeah, works.
some crazy shit, man.
And the promise of technology, for since the end of World War II, it's been like technology is going to save you so much time. And it's like, no, every hour that technology frees up, we're just given an hour extra worth of work to do.
That's so true, dude.
And every time a new version of a new creative software comes out, they're like, finally, it's going to unleash your creativity, and it's going to free you from the drudgery of work, and you'll just get to create the. No, everybody who's working in the CG industry, it's still drudgery. It actually is probably more drudgery than it was back in the 80s, because back in the 80s it was this wide open, like, what is 3D graphics going to do? Like,
Yeah.
what is even any of this even mean? And it was a lot of people just kind of sitting around and spitballing, like, oh, we could do this, we could do that, and like, well, let's try this out. And there's a lot of trial and error and experimentation, and there's not a lot of trial and error and experimentation except at the top levels in visual effects games. For most people, it's sit down, sit at your desk. We need 100 textures by noon, and we need these rigs and these animations, and, and get it done.
Yeah. Hey, at least it's work.
Hmm. Yeah, I think though, if you like project forward that the big lie of technology that's going to free up everybody, that
Yeah. Yeah.
if you project that forward, AI is just going to be that on a much grander scale.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, that does suck. Sorry to break it to everybody, but the future is I really doubt it's going to be the Star Trek utopia. There's only a 1/3 chance of that.
I feel just as doubtful about the Terminator dystopia.
Hmm.
It is going to be like both of those things will exist in different patches of the world. Everything.
Some people, the rich and powerful are going to have the Star Trek future, and some people are going to have the Terminator.
I think they'll have something that's more like the Wall-E future. If you're really that,
I think that's the middle third. I think that the thing to look out for, and if you're in the middle third, is the Wall-E future.
Yeah,
because it was a sort of like paradise. It was a paradise of the stupid and lazy, but it was a paradise.
Yeah. Maybe we could like segue this a little bit. Just talking about reality, but not removing AI from it. I've used ChatGTP. You introduced me to it, actually. I've been using it for about a year and a half now, and and I'm like a layman's. I'm just kind of like a grunt. I am not like a mastermind, like brainy whiz kid or whatever. But I've been into game dev since I was about 16 or 17. I've worked with Unity for about a decade or more. I've just been in that space of just like trying to take code and art and you slap it together and try to like make it into something. And when I was at like the prime of the amount of time I spent, it was like when I was in college and some time after college, and I had like a job where I was able to just like crank out hours just working on Unity. And yeah, I would spend months at a time trying to create a game build. The character would like walk in all these directions. You'd have like sprite animations. He'd do all sorts of tricks. Like he could like jump and do cartwheels and all sorts of stuff. And it was complicated. And a lot of the time was spent figuring out how to do something. And that would be hours and hours for days or weeks just to figure one thing out, where I'd be looking for answers on forums and search engines and websites. And I was asked to help with a phone game project about 6 or 7 months ago. And it's the first time I really was like at the helm of a game project on my own. And I started using ChatGTP with it. And the rapidness of that process was astonishing.
Yeah.
Like what would have taken me hours or days instead took me like less than an hour, because you ask it enough questions and it helps you zero in on the logic of all of these different systems in the engine. And the the broad stroke of it is, if there's anything you're trying to do and it's like very complex and very wide scope in terms of like information, but it's also very well documented, AI like turns you from one person into like five people. You like get that much more done that much faster.
Yeah, totally.
And it's, you can't put a price tag on that. The fact that it's free right now, go use it to do complicated stuff. As long as it's well documented, the AI is trained on like an ocean of information, and it triangulates those ideas.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, totally.
yeah, so that's I would say like,
It's such a double-edged sword, right? Because that this AI, it handles all the grunt work that you don't want to do, but like a lot of that grunt work is somebody's bread and butter. Like a lot of the work that I get paid to do is grunt work in the sense like, okay, so I do like the 3D modeling, digital sculpture for like for animation, let's say. And there's tasks like laying out UVs. Sorry to be super technical, people. Like then there's edge flow and there's like, extruding polygons. There's all this like technical grunt work. And if AI like replaces that, sure, like people don't have to do that anymore. But like a lot of my career is based on that. Um, you make a movie and there's like the list a mile long of everybody who worked on that movie. And I could see this going one of two ways. Like, sure, maybe Disney in 10 years, there's just going to be one person, one creative director, and they're just like spend a day kind of telling the AI how to make a particular movie, and it craps it out, and it's better than 99% of movies out right now. Um, but and all those people are they out of work now, or are all of them able now to be their own film director?
that's the double-edged sword. Is like, right, Disney doesn't need to hire these people. Well, guess what? Those people could go probably make something cooler than what Disney was going to make anyway.
Yeah, I
Those
would.
people don't
Yeah,
have to answer to stockholder or
yeah,
shareholders.
shareholders. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I would much rather go watch the movie that the prop modeler 63 on Avengers would
yeah,
make rather than Avengers, even as good for a Marvel movie or whatever it was. Like, I'm sure that a random person working on that movie has some really cool ideas.
yeah, yeah. I mean, in a sense, it seems full circle, because hundreds or thousands of years ago, eons ago, if you will, what did you have? You had a fire, and someone would tell stories in front of the fire, and they would paint stuff on a cave wall or build a sculpture or whatever. And all these things had meaning to the people that existed in that area. And then you have mass media of like our past century, like again, the Beatles and, Wizard of Oz, like all these like massively like cultural monoliths, and those things blow up, and there are these giant corporations. But like you're saying, you take AI, and now any individual can make like a multi-bajillion-dollar scale thing. So then doesn't that bring all those things back down to the local level?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And it's full
and
circle.
and and that could be really cool. We could have like local cultures again, where
Right.
you share films with your friends.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be really awesome. And like one of the things I keep saying is that even if nobody makes any money off of their creations anymore, as long as everybody has UBI or some other way to like have their eat decent food, drink clean water, have a clean place to sleep, and be safe walking around. Like, what else do you need? You've got the whole rest of your day free to be creative, or just hang out with your friends, or play VR AI Dungeons and Dragons with your friends. Like,
That'd be pretty
that'd be
sick,
pretty
man.
cool, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be pretty sick. Yeah, I mean,
And AI doesn't mean you can't work. Like, sure, you try to get some sort of side hustle that makes you even more money.
grow your own food.
Grow your own food, sell it to your neighbors. Like,
I say just grow enough to feed your family. And
yeah,
that's like, you don't even need to like go out at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you go out and hang out with people, but like all I'm saying is you just like you have like potatoes, a bunch of vegetables, and some livestock, and you're all set, man.
Yeah.
You don't need to go get anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. And I think I'll make a closing note here because I think that's a really great point. But I just think one of the things that's most fascinating to me about AI is it's so open-ended, where it's going to go and how things are going to shake out and how things are going to change near term, midterm, long term. It's just an endlessly fascinating topic. I'm really happy to have you to talk with about all this
Yeah, man.
and have as a friend. You're great. Love you, man.
Yeah, right back at you. Bro.
Yeah, we'll have another one of these sometime.
All right. Cool, dude.
Yeah, thanks a lot for watching.